Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. This is the beginner's guide to Capcom vs. SNK 2. So the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 recently came out and came out with all sorts of great games. But specifically, well, maybe not this one, but specifically, we're going to focus on Capcom vs. SNK 2 in this video, as it's one of the most legendary games of all time. Now, in this game, there's a lot of things to talk about. This is a dense game. As you can see here, the roster is no joke. There's a lot of characters, but there's more than just a lot of characters. There's also a lot of subsystems, like grooves, like ratios, and we're basically going to cover all of it in this video. So there's going to be timestamps for you, so you can skip forward to whatever makes sense for you. But let's start first with the basics of the game. So now let's start with just the basics here. So this game, like, obviously your character choice matters a lot, but there's also the groove system, right? You might notice here we have Terry and Ryu, and you might notice at the bottom here, the super bars, they couldn't be more different, right? All sorts of different graphics, colors, all sorts of different things are going on. There is 6 grooves, and we'll cover them all in depth, don't worry. And each one of those wildly changes how you play. Say something basic here, like some grooves, you can run. And running makes you move faster. Other grooves, you can only dash, and dashing, like, it gets you forward, sure, but it's not quite as fast as running. There's CAP, Capcom, SNK, and basically, as you can see here, there's just a lot of systems for each. And one of the fun things about the game, it's a small thing, but if you pick a Capcom groove, all the characters will have Capcom art. And this is for Capcom characters and SNK characters, FYI. If you pick an SNK groove, though, now all of a sudden, all the characters have SNK art instead. Obviously, it's not a gameplay difference or anything, but it's just another really cool layer of just how involved the game is, how much layers of love they put into it. So now, some of the basics here. It is a 6-button game, so light, medium, heavy punch, light, medium, heavy kick. So a lot of the SNK characters come from games where they only had 4 buttons. So now a lot of those characters now have like medium attacks, when before normally they only have light and heavies, right? So that's something that's a little bit different. When we talked about, say, like running versus dashing, there's a lot of different things. Like a lot of the grooves could have things like hops that don't exist in other things. Like, we're going to break down all the subsystems later in the video. And besides that, I really got to stress this. This is an old game. So it works on a lot of old school rules. So if you want to throw people, you don't hit light punch, light kick together. That can be a roll depending on what groove you're in, right? It's generally the old classic way. You got to be right by the enemy and start mashing forward or back, heavy punch or heavy kick. And some people have throws off mediums, but basically that's it. So it works in the old school way. So just to keep in mind, got the inputs on, like you can apply some modern things to it, especially when it comes to inputs. This game has lots and lots and lots of half circle moves, and it doesn't like input shortcuts so much. So if you happen to be on leverless controller, for example, you might struggle a fair bit. Like here, I'm going to try to do Vice's negative gain super. And there I got it, right? Because I got the perfect half circle. I'm using leverless right now. But if you kind of slop it out, you might miss an input, and then you might miss your move. So there we go. We missed a down input because of our double half circle. So the whole move dropped. On arcade stick or pad, it's much harder to drop because you have to kind of roll through with it. On leverless, it's easier to miss an input. And so just beware on that. It's an older game. Speaking of older game too, has a lot of old game features like a guard break system. You can see that right below the opponent's health. And it's mostly what you see is what you get. So when you break it, you get guard broken, get a full combo, and basically the damage of the move is the damage to the guard break. So lights do less than mediums, mediums do less than heavies, so on and so forth. And certain characters are what you would call guard break specialists. Now, besides a lot of that, it's very much like the classical fighting game experience. You know, you do special moves, you do buttons, you do combos. Just a lot of it happens to be informed by like groove-specific combos, supers, all that kind of stuff. So now let's get more into the depth of the game. Now, before we go further in the guide, just a little bit of a public service announcement. So while we're doing this on the Capcom Fighting Collection, obviously there's a lot of ways to play Capcom vs. SNK 2. You could be playing it on the collection, you could be emulating it. There's a lot of ways, right? So the normal way, especially through emulation, is you're playing the arcade version of the game. There is another version of the game called EO though. That's Easy Operation. This was the GameCube version of the game. And it had a bunch of silly stuff that is not going to exist in this version, but it did have balance changes specifically. And a lot of them, like, they're fairly small. A lot of it, like, is character health specifics, right? But some of the grooves did fundamentally change on how they worked and made them a bit better, especially for lesser grooves like P groove. And also they removed roll canceling. So we're still going to cover roll canceling, but just a note here, there is a difference between the original arcade version and the EO version. Specifically, if you're playing ranked online in the Capcom Collection, it will default to the EO version. So you got to keep those changes in mind. When we get to the grooves, I'll cover the differences between the two versions, the original arcade version and the EO version as applicable when we get to it. But just to note, there is some small differences there. Now, one of the most interesting aspects of the game, besides the fact there's the whole groove system, is the ratio system. So you pick your groove, you pick whatever character you're gonna get, and then which ratio. So there's a large team building aspect of the game. You're allowed up to 4 points of ratios to work with, or up to 3 characters, and any combination therein. So you can have 2 ratio 2 characters, you could have a ratio 3 and a ratio 1, you could have a ratio 4 character, you could have 2 ratio 1s and a ratio 2. And how you go about this is part of the fun of the game. So you notice here we got 2 right ends, right? And one thing you're going to notice out of the gate, though, you might see on the corners of their thing, mine says R2, the other one says R1. And that immediately means a difference between damage and health. So look here, if I bop the enemy right end with a stand heavy punch, you can see how much damage it does. It does a good amount of damage, because it's a pretty good amount of damage. Now, what happens if the enemy hits me? You may notice it's not quite hitting as hard as mine does, right? Because I do more damage and have more overall health. So it just is much more reflective on the health bar. So ratio 2 is effectively normal. You have regular damage, regular health, that's it. Now obviously every character does different damage values depending on the character, and every character has different health values. But like other than that, nothing's modified. However, a ratio 1 character only has 80% of total regular life, and it does 82% of overall damage. So basically there's a damage nerf as well. So less damage, less life. Conversely, a ratio 3 character does 117% bonus damage, so 17% more damage, and has 117% life. So more overall damage, more overall life. And ratio 4, specifically, we're ratio 4 now, right? This is where like the bigger damage plays in. So you now have 140% more life and deal 130% damage. So big life, big damage, right? Now, here's the thing. For like the competitive team aspect of the game, unless you got something real specific in mind, it's almost always best to go with 2 ratio 1 characters and 1 ratio 2 character, because basically just having more bodies on the floor matters a lot more in this game. Like ratio 4 is almost a gimmick. Like the only character that's like not a gimmick for would be like Shin Akuma, I guess, because his health value is so low he needs ratio 4 just to not die in like a single hit. But other than that, ratio 1, ratio 1, ratio 2 is the way to go. And for the team, you can put them in any placement you want, but that's the way to get the most value out of everything. You know, the balance, it was a different era. We didn't think it too hard through, I guess. But still, it's a fun way to look at it. And some characters are a bit more valuable, right? As a ratio 2, like if you got a Sagat on your team, maybe he's the ratio 2 character because he's the guy who runs this game, right? But still, go about it any way you want, but that's one of the team building aspects of the game. Now, to talk some of the subsystems of the game, and I want to give this one its own section and everything else will be another section, but we got to talk about rolls. So rolling is one of the most definitive things about CVS2, you might have heard, right? And of course, roll canceling, which depending on which version of the game you're in, might not be in the game. If you're playing on the base arcade version, like either through emulation or the default rules of the Capcom Fighting Collection, then roll canceling is in. If you're playing on EO, like say Fighting Collection Ranked, or just through some other means, then there will not be roll canceling. But what is a roll first in and of itself? So a roll is a way to move forward while also being invincible. So say Mai's throwing like hella projectiles my way, right? And I don't know how to get it. Nothing's working. I can just roll past it. Rolls are invincible. And not just like invincible to projectiles. They're invincible to everything. Strikes, projectiles, you name it. Everything except for throws. So basically, it's just a good way to get forward and avoid like the screen being full of nonsense. And since it's invincible on startup as well, it can be used in a lot of ways to get out of pressure. Like if you're in the corner, you can roll out of the corner. You can do a lot of things. The only weakness is if they call it and you're attempting to roll out of stuff, then they can throw you and then there's no way out. But yeah, otherwise rolls are invincible. There's a little bit of, I guess you would call it lag at the end of it where you can be hit. But other than that, it's mostly invincible and super game defining. And of course, then there's the roll cancel. So what is a roll cancel? And once again, this is only in the base arcade version of the game. So the roll cancel is you roll and then you do a special move, and the special move has the property of the roll, thus giving the special move invincibility. So we're going to use an example again here. Maya's going to throw a projectile and I'm going to use Vice's shoulder charge. And one of the things about Vice's shoulder charge is it definitely does not go through projectiles. It's not exactly a good way to go about it, right? Like you're going to get bopped every single time. But as you can see here, boom, I went right through it. What happened there? Look at my inputs. I did down, down, back, roll, and then back and punch for the shoulder charge. And when you do it that way, when you roll right before you complete the motion, and then you do the actual motion completion, you get the properties of the roll for whatever special move you're going to do. Now, the thing is, you got to watch out on the inputs, right? Many moves, if you just complete the motion, do roll, like that could be a special move in and of itself. So it's not going to benefit you necessarily, right? And say if the move's a closer forward move, if you just hit forward and do the roll, like you might just roll instead, right? So you have to do the roll before the motion, the final input of the motion is complete. And then just hit the last part of the motion, hit whatever button you're going to press. So once again here, in this example, it's quarter circle back move and punch, right? So I want to hit like down, down, back, roll, and then very quickly back punch. It's a very short window. You only have a couple frames. If you wait too long, you will get the roll instead. Like it's just going to work out that way. And if you hit back and then roll, you might just get a roll or you might get a special move that you didn't intend. So you have to do basically most of the motion and then roll right beforehand and then complete the motion with the appropriate button. And this applies to every move. I'm using a quarter circle move as like a basic example, but like say a charge. Honda, you know, hold back, forward, punch, hit, and do headbutt, right? This applies just the same. So once again here, Mai is throwing tons of fireballs and naturally, you know, headbutt, not exactly projectile immune, right? And there we go. We headbutt it right through the projectile. So you have to trick the inputs depending on the move. So there I charged, then I rolled, and then I hit forward and punch. But then as long as we cancel the roll early enough, the move will have the property of the roll. You can make this apply to basically every single special move in the game. It has to be a special though, can't be normals. Like even Blanca's electricity you could, although the timing's very difficult, at least for me, I was never good at it. But yeah, you basically just roll right before you finish your move. The move gets the property of the roll, and thus the move becomes invincible to everything but throws. It's sort of game-defining, to be honest with you. And obviously, if your groove doesn't have a roll, you can't do it. But, you know, that's part of the fun, I guess, if you want to call it, of the game, is you can make offensive power very defensive. And that's the power of roll canceling. Of course, the base roll itself is plenty cool and good as well. Also, if you happen to be on the collection specifically, you can bind buttons. So you can bind roll to a single button press instead of it just like doing like light punch, like kick, right? So if you bind to a single button press, you can make the whole process a lot easier as well. Now let's talk subsystems. So we talked roll, got its own section, but there's a lot more than that, right? We already talked certain things like some grooves will run, some grooves will dash. That can have consequences beyond just that, because like Morgan, if you dash, you dash. But if you have something, a groove that can run, she can do her classic fly, right? So for Morgan, she definitely prefers grooves that can run instead, so she can do her old classic gimmicks. But besides all that, and I'll mention them as appropriate in the groove sections, but we got a lot of things, right? Like some grooves have hops, like King of Fighters style hops. Much lower to the ground than a regular jump, much easier to get aerial offense in versus like the more, you know, classical Street Fighter full jump. So a hop can be a very powerful thing. Some grooves have effectively tech rolls. We're called safe falls, I think, in this game, right? But yeah, you know, you get knocked down, you can roll backwards a little bit, gain some space. Not every groove can do that, so that really matters which groove you choose. Some grooves have delayed wake up. So you won't see an indicator necessarily, but you can see Morgan gets up with a shadow. That means she's getting up later than the regular timing would otherwise indicate it. So it can like ruin setups, all that kind of stuff. So these are like small layer defensive options, but it's groove to groove specific. Some grooves have a counter attached to it. So this guard cancel is effectively like a classical Street Fighter alpha counter, right? Not everyone gets to do this. And it's easier for some grooves than others to afford the cost of it. But like, yeah, how you play the game and how you can move around like is very affected by the grooves. And of course, a lot of grooves have their own specific traits that only exist with them. Like C groove I'm in right now, only C groove has regular air blocking. That's kind of a big deal, right? So which groove you pick so defines your team and your characters and everything you're going to do. So now that said, let's go into the specifics. Let's talk about each specific groove. So now let's start with C groove. C groove, if you don't know anything about the game, this is probably the one to pick because it's just a really good grab bag of abilities. So first off, it is a dashing groove, not a running groove. You do get the ability to roll. This is the only groove that has air block. No other groove has air block at all. Now, specifically for air block, you can't block moves that originate from the ground. Like if you jump at me and I hit a button, then you still get hit, right? But anything that's air to air or like jumping on a projectile, that you get to block. Only C groove can do this. C groove also has alpha attacks and has delayed wake up, as we covered in the last section. Now, besides that, so why C groove? Well, the meter is actually it. So C groove easily has the best overall meter usage of all the grooves. Every other groove, there's something gimmicky about the meter, some way, shape, or form. C groove just works on its face. You have 3 bars. So if I want to do my level 3, I can do my level 3, sure, right? Whatever. But say I want to do a level 1. I can do a level 1. I don't have to take my whole meter to do it. Some of the meters, you do a super, that's the whole meter gone instantly, no matter what. It is also the only groove to have level 2 supers. That is actually unique to C groove. No one else can do level 2 supers. And actually level 2s is one of the strongest things about it. So let's go Chun's Kick Super. You know this one. You've seen this one. This is in a million games, right? But let me add a little flavor to it at the end you probably never seen. Okay, so we're going to do level 2. All right. Okay, sure enough. Wait, what? I went into spinning bird kick at the end. How did I do that? So all for level 2s, for anyone to see groove, you can cancel a level 2 super into any other special or any level 1 super. So say I have Kikosho, right? So I can go my level 2 kick super into Kikosho. And that's all a true combo. And generally speaking, a level 2 into a level 1 will do more damage than a raw level 3 will, making the super usage and meter effectiveness of C groove way better than everyone else in a lot of ways. Like once again, we're going to use our kick super, right? If I just let the level 3 version rock, it does good damage. So 5,454. That's appreciable damage. That's not nothing. But if I go for that into a level 1 Kikosho, so level 2 into level 1 instead. Okay, so here we go. And we're going to cancel our last hit in the Kikosho. Oh, 7,000. That's a good deal more damage. I still spent the exact same amount of meter, but I got way more damage. And no one else but C groove can do that. And of course, you know, meter helps you dictate the pace of the game. If I just go for like level 2, and before the very end, I'll just go in like heavy spinning bird kick. I still leave them grounded. I can still do stuff. You can create setups out of this. There's a lot of things you can do. A lot of times at level 2 into the right specials can match level 3 damage. And of course, you're free to cancel anytime. Like, you can do it whenever is most optimal for you. So doing like a level 2, and then, you know, just hold on to that level 1. So let it sit. If it's not going to kill, if it's going to kill, your ability to reach with the meter is better than the other people anyways. But if it's not going to kill, leave that bar behind, right? So the level 2 super and all the fun options from it is definitely one of the defining features of C Groove. And it is one of the better grooves for sure. Also really small, but it's a fun bonus. So right here, Stand Heavy Punch, right? Did 1100 damage. And I'm not editing this. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to hit that button again. And what happens? Wait, what? It did more damage. Wait, what's going on here? 1100. Okay. 1155. So it's very small, but each bar you have stocked up, you get just a little bit of a damage bonus, and obviously the most damage bonus at level 3. It's not that big of a deal, but more damage is more damage. So when you're sitting on meter, you just do more damage across the board. So for examples that are just really good, like obviously Chun-Li's like one of the gold standards, because she can just get so much damage and just so much utility off of this. Sagat's obviously good because Sagat's blessed with like everything he does. Like that's level 3 damage out of the gate with only having to spend 2 bars. Ryu can do silly things like anywhere. You can go for like level 2 Shinku Hadouken and then cancel it in the Tatsu, like changing frame data, or of course, you know, point blank. Also will combo, right? Good knockdown. So like anything you could think of where a super can go into a special or another super, it's all in C Groove. So A Groove, really quick before we get into it. It has dashing, does not have runs. It can roll. It does have the defensive alpha counter attack, and it does have tech roll. Now we get to A Groove. So A Groove is a higher skill cap groove, I guess you would call it. But it's also, well, it's devastating. It's devastating. Generally, most people consider the best grooves to be either A Groove or K Groove. K Groove is a lot simpler. It's for people like me. But A Groove, if you like fancy combos, this is what it's all about. This is the custom combo groove, similar to, say, V-ism in Street Fighter Alpha 3. So you might notice the bar here. It's broken into 2 segments. And if you're in the mood to do like a basic level 1 super, it'll take half that bar. But you can only do level 1 supers. There is no level 3 options available in this groove. So the big cooler damage off super is not happening. But you get custom combo. So that bar that's draining, as long as it's draining, you can chain anything into anything forever, basically. So here we are, and like I can just go like medium, like they'll eventually get pushed out, sure, right? But a lot of characters with very specific combos, you can make some magic happen. And how we do that, it's very easy, because one, the activation itself, just heavy punch, heavy kick, the activation by itself is full invincible. So you can use it like as a reversal and then like hit people on the other way. And also, you can use it to create juggle states where none would normally exist, because everything combos and everything juggles forever. So say Bison, right? I knock you down with scissors. But say, I do scissors, and then I activate like kind of right as you're about to hit the ground. And then we can do something fun like this. And notice how before you hit the ground, I caught you. And that can lead to sillier situations. And I dropped it at the end. I don't care. That's good enough. That's good enough. But you get the idea, right? You can get a lot of damage, well beyond any normal level 3 damage any character can do if you get the right combo. Certain characters, they can juggle you across the screen for free. Some people have like guard crush combos, like if you're blocking, too bad. And you can just kind of bully. The damage potential in A Groove is probably overall the highest in the game. If you get your custom combo, because once again, like anything goes into anything as long as you're fast enough. So that's kind of all that really matters. And obviously specific corner combos, character specific stuff. It's really particular about which characters you pick. This is definitely like the most you gotta plan a team out in advance groove. Like say C Groove. C Groove, you can kind of slop any 3 characters together and it'll mostly work. You definitely can't do that with A Groove. A Groove, it is all about the, like, this is exactly why you pick the groove. Custom combo is everything. If you're not playing around custom combo, pick something else, because that is the whole reason for being for this groove. So basically, long story short, if you're all about the combo, then A groove is the one for you. Next up is P groove, the final Capcom groove. So this is dashing, not running. It does have hop. This is the only Capcom groove to have short hop compared to the regular jump. That's really interesting. And it also has delayed wake up. This is also the groove most affected by the arcade edition to EO change. We'll talk about it at the end of this section. But of course, P groove, the whole reason for P groove is parry. And it works exactly like you think. An attack's coming your way, you just hit forward right beforehand, and you know, gotta have some right timing or you'll get hit. But you hit forward right beforehand and you parry the move. And P groove being like third strike, you can also air parry as well. It's not necessarily as good as air block and C groove, but also it can catch more things overall. So there's that. But that's kind of the problem. Besides that, it's the most basic groove. You're given parry, and that's about all you got to work with. Parry's really cool and all, don't get me wrong, but some of the other grooves have some of the more overwhelming systems, right? Just parry, especially in a game where you have K groove and just defend exists, isn't as attractive. And of course, there's the super bar. So the super bar is longer than the other bars. It takes a bit longer to fill up. And it's also level 3 only. And level 3s are plenty nice, don't get me wrong, right? Like, they do a heck of a lot of damage and all, but there's no utility. Like C groove, like N groove, even like S groove. Like, it's just big dumb bar. And when it's done, you get your level 3, hope you get it right? And that's about it. So maybe if you're super sick with like all the evil moment parry kind of things, Lord knows I'm not, right? That's not for me. Like parrying and all that, it's good. It's a very good technique. It's just that's really all you get. But that said, once again, this is the big differentiator between Arcade Edition and EO Edition. So they made the guard gauge a little bit bigger, but also they gave you the option to cancel special moves into super moves, which normally you definitely can't do. But if you happen to be in EO, and once again, if you're playing the collection, ranked is EO, then you can. Then all of a sudden you have potentially much more damaging combos, right? Much more damaging opportunities, much more damaging like anything really across the board, because you can now play around with something you just didn't have before, and that's really, really nice. It doesn't make it better than K groove or nothing like that, don't get me wrong, right? But it's a very valid and interesting buff for P groove. So then you add that with the fact that, you know, it's parry. If you love parrying, you love parrying, right? Then you add all together, and then you get something that's interesting. So our first SNK groove, that is S groove. And this is no one's gonna ever accuse S groove of being the best groove, but it's definitely one of the most interesting. So out of the gate, you can run, not dash. You have hops. Hops are very good because, you know, it just helps with the air offense. You have the counter attack, alpha counter. You also get tactical recovery, delayed wake up, right? Here's the thing, no roll, you get spot dodge. So this is how it like used to be back in the day. What is spot dodge? You dodge in place and you're just full invulnerable to everything, and you recover the frame it's over. So there's only one weakness to spot dodge, in that it can be thrown. Otherwise, like, you just can't be hit, and it's a pretty good window. I believe it's like 35 frames or so. So you're just invincible for quite some time. You just have to be grabbed out of it. Of course, unlike a regular roll, it doesn't move forward. You're perfectly in place. And if you're playing on the base arcade version, that also means no roll canceling, right? So there's that. But still, very, very interesting. And then there's the meter. So the meter doesn't fill up the usual way so much. As you can see here, I'm hitting Zangief, nothing's going on. Although it will fill up a little bit if you get hit. But this is like older SNK games. You got to charge that meter up. So if you hold heavy punch and heavy kick, you will just charge it up just a little bit, as you can see here. And then when you get it filled up, you're now in max mode. And from max mode, a couple things change. One, your damage changes. So like stand heavy punch, 1200 damage. If I'm in max mode, 1380. So you get a good little damage boost. You get about a 15% damage boost. That's really nice. And that's just kind of for like all your normals and all that. That's really good. And the other thing is when you're fully charged up, you can do a level 1 super. And I know that doesn't seem like much, right? Like you have to charge up manually. Like that kind of sucks, right? But here's where things get interesting. So if your health happens to be flashing, so you're in the bottom 30% of your life, when you do your charge up and then you do your move, now that is instead the level 3 version of the move. So that gets better, right? But also, and this is the big one, you get infinite for free level 1 supers. So you see here, I'm Athena, right? Like I didn't do nothing. I can just do this over and over. Athena is a classic example because you can just spam this stuff. Like it doesn't have to stop, basically. Like you can just keep going forever and ever. And this is definitely one of those grooves where like the character you pick really matters because you're kind of looking to get your butt kicked to get to that desperation part. Like perhaps one of the most annoying examples is Terry. So Buster Wolf, right? Buster Wolf's really good. And also it's basically safe on block. Like if it gets blocked, it has so much pushback, it mostly just doesn't matter if it gets blocked. So you can kind of just keep doing it over and over and over. And there's very little that can be done. Like people have to just counterplay against infinite Buster Wolf Terry. And God forbid it actually connects. Because you can combo Power Geyser from the level 1, right? So you have infinite level 1s. So here's the reality of the situation. Like you deal with that and you're losing a good chunk of your health and it's safe on block and he's pushed out and you can just do it again. And you can just do it again. And you can just do it again over and over and over. And if it connects and he gets a Power Geyser and does a lot, like you can just go berserk with the meter. So characters with exceptionally good level 1s, if you're looking to gimmick people out, this is like your trolling groove a little bit. Like it's not as competitively sound as A groove or K groove. But if you're looking to have a good time, especially trolling with spot dodge, because you can mess with people's heads with spot dodge, right? If you're looking to have a fun time, S groove's the one. Now on to N groove. This is like the King of Fighters 98 groove, sorta. This is the responsible groove. It's not as crazy as some of the other ones, but you get the biggest grab bag of abilities. So you can run, you can roll, that's great. You can hop, that's great. Already 3 strong traits. You have the alpha attack, the counter attack, that's great. You have tech roll, awesome. And you also got some unique things only for this groove. So we got all these defensive traits, which is great, but you also have the unique counter movement. So think of it like a roll, but unlike the regular counterattack, you're counter rolling. So just like King of Fighters. So I can use this to roll either forward towards the enemy or use this to kind of roll away from the enemy. And this can create like punish situations that the regular counterattack can't. Like we get much more damage potentially if you know what's going on. That's N groove only, so it rewards, matchup specific knowledge. Now, besides that, you might notice here you got a bunch of blinking lights here, you got a bar building up. So what we do here with these lights is they're stocks and we can burn a stock. And this effectively gives us max mode. And when we're in max mode, things get better for us, right? So normally here, Iori, a punch, 1400 damage, I burn a stock, 1680. You get a flat 20% damage boost to your normals and your specials. So that's really handy. That gives you a lot more damage potential. Now, the one thing is, say you want to go for a super, normally you can only do level 1 supers. That's it, unless you burn a stock. And then you burn a stock and then you do a super, then it automatically becomes a level 3 super instead. And the thing that's unique with N groove specifically, the amount of time to get to a level 3, because you technically only need 2 stocks, right? You can fill up to 3 total, but you only need 2. You need 1 to break and then another to do the actual super. So technically, of all the various grooves, N groove has the fastest time to level 3. So that's a way of meter efficiency if you want to look at it that way. Of course, naturally, if you want to level 3, you got to be in the stock broken state. But then again, you do more damage, and if you do more damage, you also do more guard damage as well, right? You have runs, you have hops. You got ways you can break people open, like that's for sure. There's not too much more to it than that, honestly. Like once again, N groove is kind of like the workman's groove. It's not flashy, It just kind of gives you everything you need. It has the most overall abilities of any of the other grooves. The stock system just lets you play what the game plan you're going to play anyways, but you do more damage, do more guard meter damage. That's great. And if you happen to catch someone, you can convert that into a level 3 and do it basically cheaper than any other groove. So it's simple in a lot of ways, just a really good grab bag, kind of, you know, the old jack of all trades, if you will. And finally, we have K-Groove. So K-Groove, one of the things I know you're just at home asking, like, rooflemonger, I'm tired of working hard. I just want to slop my way to easy wins. And buddy, don't I know it? That's been my motto since day one, right? So welcome home. Welcome to K-Groove. So K-Groove doesn't have many features. You can run, that's nice. And you do have hop, which is nice. And you also have tech roll, which is good. But that's about it. You don't got too many other things, except for like the two most important in the game in a lot of ways. Because you have the rage system. This is effectively like the samurai showdown groove. But you also have just defense, like Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves, and also the more recent Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. So basically, just defend. It works like it does in Fatal Fury. So the attacks come in your way, right? And you block. But instead, just tap back right before the attack would hit, and you get it. And if you get it, you'll get a little bit of your rage gauge filled up, and you'll also heal just a little bit of health. So that's really nice. Also, with the healing, this is the big boy groove for sure. Like, there's characters that are great in this groove without having to be a big character. Like Mai is pretty good in this groove. But this groove exponentially helps the bigger high health characters. Like, one, you can gain health back. It's just a little bit, but the fact that you can gain health back is a big deal. And then, of course, there's the rage system. The more you get beat up, or the more you just defend, the more you will build up your rage gauge. And when you build that stuff up, like, that stuff hurts. So when you're in it, like, you're glowing red, it immediately starts counting down. You can't save this like a regular bar in other grooves. You'll have a very limited time to use it, but it gives you the world. So one of the things out of the gate, we talk about big characters, right? And like how the health goes. So look at this, Stand Heavy Punch. Does 1600 damage. Which, you know, it's a good amount of damage to do. But now we're going to get Ryo in Rage. And now that he's in Rage, I said it did 1600, right? Nope, that's 1400. What? So you literally take less damage when you're in Rage. Specifically, it's not much. You take 12.5% less damage. So, okay, you're in Rage, you're literally harder to kill. And you can potentially get life back too with just defense. So that's what I mean about like padding out the health bar for the higher health characters. And of course, not to undersell one of the big selling points. Yo, once again, 1600 damage. When I'm in Rage, oh, 2160, what? You get a 35% damage bonus to all of your normals and your specials. You hit like a truck. Not to say the least of this also is reflective on the guard gauge, because like real damage translates to guard gauge damage. So you can like very easily break people open if you're so inclined when you're in Rage mode. That's really, really strong. And your supers, so any super you do is automatically the level 3 version, and the super gets a smaller buff. It does a 10% damage buff, but still. So when you're glowing red, you know, stuff's dangerous. And the thing about it is too, especially if you're good with just defense, getting some of your health back, is you can turn Rage mode multiple times around, especially on higher health characters. So effectively, this is like the big dumb damage groove. You'll get hit, you turn red, and then you turn around and you steamroll the enemy. And then you add the fact that you have Just Defend, you have the healing from Just Defend, you can build more bar with Just Defend. Just Defend also makes you recover from block just a little bit faster than normal. So some things are punishable with Just Defense that aren't normally on block. It's not necessarily as strong as parry overall, but the meter in this is way better than P-Groove, to put it at a minimum. Because you just get huge damage buffs and become like super terrifying that anything random move is going to hit, and it's very easy to guard break the opponent, and that kind of what makes K-Groove a big threat. And that is the beginner's guide for Capcom versus SNK 2. So a lot of things to go through. Once again, the grooves are what makes the game. The grooves, this is a legendary game. There's so much depth. There's so much to it. The fact that, you know, you take any one of your many favorite characters, because the roster's so big in this game, so gigantic, play a team that you like, and then the fact that you get to modify their gameplay with the groove system. That's why it's one of the most legendary games of all time. And hopefully with what's in this video, I helped you understand it a bit better. Of course, there's very defined tiers. Like I'm sure you've probably heard about CVS2 Sagat, right? There's a reason for that. You probably never heard so much about CVS2 Kyosuke. There's a reason for that. It's an older game. Balance wasn't as good as modern balance, right? But still, a lot of fun teams are very possible. A lot of fun teams are very viable. So play around with what makes sense for you, especially if you're newer to this game from the collection. Just play what you think is interesting, what you think is fun. But that all said, my friends, that's the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some fighting games.
This is the life we can. This is the life.